welcome to the Veloccino Cycling Podcast, where the best stories have not yet been written. Today I'm joined here by my friend Jim Whewell from Wendover Beers to talk about beer. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Actually, not just beer, also cycling.
Yes. Well, I think that's the main theme here, right? Beer just goes hand in hand. So.
This is so good. For me, actually, it's the only reason I have you here is that I can drink as much beer as I want on show. Nobody will judge me on it.
Yeah. So, well, I've brought some non-alcoholic beers, which help when you're talking,
Should we start with the non-alcoholic?
I think we should. So, here in front of us, I brought some cycling branded beers that we stock. So, one of which is the Quarmont, named after the climb in the infamous Tour of Flanders, or Ronde van Vlaanderen.
I'm going to do it, actually.
Yes. Hopefully I'll be signing up. So, yeah, I've actually done the Tour of Flanders many years on the trot. So, and I'm totally out of shape. So, what better time than to say, yes, I'll do that next year.
Yeah, I'm out of shape as well. Yeah. Perfect timing. Yeah, we just before this recording, we spoke a little bit about it. More and more beer companies, I think, have understood the value that cyclists bring in. There's a lot of similarities, especially with alcohol-free beer. The social aspect, you go out and spend time with your friends. Often, especially when you go away for cycling. We went to Girona a couple of years ago, or this year we went to Mallorca, and often we just finished it off with like a bit of an isotonic drink afterwards. So I guess,
and there's nothing better than a non-alcoholic beer for that. So the malt that they use within the malted barley that they use is just full of all of the sugars that your body requires after a ride. So actually, if you take the alcohol out, it becomes really good for you. I have a friend who actually used to ride with beer in his bidon.
Oh, really?
post race or post ride, he would often empty a beer into his bidon and ride home with it.
Oh, he's an amateur because I use rum.
Yeah.
No, but it's. I think it's just so cool. Also, like there's obviously like there's dedicated breweries that I think just recently started with cycling in mind. Mm-hmm. Like
Stoke. Yeah. So I was introduced to Stoke by my friend at Wild Cycles, who I believe you've now introduced yourself to.
He will be on a show in a couple of weeks' time. Actually, John. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So hi, John, if you're watching.
Hi. You are next. Not next. Next.
John introduced me to the folks that run the Stoke brand. And they are obviously apparent at most gravel rides these days. Yeah. So I think they've got their kind of foot firmly in on the gravel riding scene. So
would you also say, this is just a question that just came up now, that the gravel scene basically boosted as well the beer not the beer consumption, but it's more like a relaxed take on biking.
Yeah, so I know certainly with John's setup and Wild Cycles, it's certainly more about the smiles than the miles. I think that's one of his mottos. So they often will ride, a leisurely ride with a lot of people on gravel bikes, and at the aftermath of that, if they're camping, they sit by a fire, and what goes better than a beer together with friends after an adventure, and that. The whole brand of Stoke is based on that assumption that you've been out and had your adventure, and then you've come back and you're enjoying a beer by the fire in the outdoors. It actually says on the can, please drink outdoors if possible.
And responsibly.
Yeah, responsibly.
Alcohol-free, I guess.
Yeah. No, that one's not. So.
That's not? No. Then really drink responsibly.
Yeah, and I don't think they brew alcohol-free beer. They're more for the post ride.
For the wild ones.
Yeah.
And the Quarmont one, that is, I think, more like a brand that is long established. We all know the Quarmont beer, and now they also came up with an alcohol-free.
Yes, and this is actually 0.3%, so less than 0.5. And in this country, it's quite funny, but in the UK, it's only considered alcohol-free if it's less than 0.5%. So a 0.5% beer, you still need a license to sell.
Oh, really?
But this beer, you'd be able to go down to the market and sell without a license.
That's interesting. I also see like a picture of a pregnant woman on here.
Yeah. Obviously, the rule right now is no alcohol for pregnant women. I think they changed their advice literally last year because my wife's now pregnant and she's finding that rather annoying. She can't wait for a glass of wine.
Just imagine. And also, I read somewhere, quite often the question comes up, alcohol-free, shouldn't it be like 0.000? And I think to remember that it was something in the line of, if it is below a certain percentage, is the same like as if you would take, I think like, medicine or something like that.
Yeah.
It's,
well, they used to say during pregnancy a Guinness a day, right?
Yeah.
And, they've changed their mind quite a bit on that, so.
I can imagine. It didn't go down too well, I believe.
But yeah, I mean, these are just a few of the beers we stock. So we have, quite a lot of alcoholic beer, obviously, as you'd expect.
Yeah.
But we have started to stock quite a bit of non-alcoholic beer, which is great for going to barbecues, Christmas time, that sort of thing. And there's some really good non-alcoholic beer at the moment too.
So good. And this is basically your business, right? So, as me, you live in Wendover, and we just recently met, or a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
Absolutely accidental because our daughters went to the same nursery.
That's right.
And then we went on to a dad's night out and we realized, oh, you cycle. Oh, I cycle too.
Yeah.
And then, this is how it all got together. And also what I love with your business is that if you are in the area and you order it locally, you will deliver it on your Dutch cargo bike.
That's right. Yeah. So we recently invested in a Urban Arrow cargo bike.
Yeah.
It's fully electric and it will carry 150 kilos of weight in the front. So we can carry 10 cases of beer.
Or me.
For anyone, yeah.
If I could fit in there.
You want to? Oh, you, yeah. I wouldn't advise carrying someone in there, but unless you're, claustrophobic, I'm sure it'd be fine.
Maybe we leave that. Maybe just put the alcohol in. Do you go up hills as well, or just?
Yeah. So I actually did a little event at Chiltern Velo.
Oh yeah,
where
nice. Friends.
I rode the bike up to the top of the hill up there and through to Horwich and took my beer machine. And did like a bar from the bike.
Oh, nice!
So that was quite cool.
Just guys, if you haven't heard of Chiltern Velo, but you are from the area, so they are basically based in Horwich, which is just after Cholsbury, on your way basically from top of the hills towards Chesham. I think that's right. The easiest way to describe it.
Straight up, it's Aston Hill, right?
Yeah.
Through past Wendover Woods, keep going straight. Just keep going straight the whole way and you'll end up in Horwich.
There's also a little segment that you can do on the way. There's like a little left turn down, an S bend and up. When you race it, you will feel like Cavendish.
Right.
Like it's really, really nice.
I'm not sure which bit you mean, but
it's like,
oh, you mean when you come through St. Leonard's?
Just after.
Okay. Yeah.
After the White Lion.
Yeah, I wouldn't race through there though.
You left straight down.
Yeah.
A bit of gravel on the floor, on the grass.
There's always gravel. It's the Chilterns.
Yeah. I think I was like, top 9 on Strava there once. And I also got a King of the Mountain once just after it on the Vinny's Little Cock Sprint.
Okay.
Or is it Vinny's Little Cock Sprint or is it Vinny's Little Cock Sprint? Anyways, that was the segment that
should we crack open a Graham one?
Let's crack open a Graham one.
See, I mean, really the way round to do this is to drink the alcohol-free version and then taste the real thing and see if you can tell the difference.
We can do that.
There is a difference, for sure.
Pop it up.
But this is very good.
It reminds me on the olden days when Mike and I started the podcast, we almost did beer tasting on almost every show.
Right.
And then we stopped. And I don't know why. I think it's because I was too lazy to buy beer or something like that. But we should do it again. So let me just put this back behind us.
Yeah.
So
I'll move this one to the floor.
And then we also we discovered so many more things that we had actually in common, which I really like because my Scottish friend Ewan actually said once, when you meet another cyclist, you always think that cycling is the only thing in common, but then you realize after a while that cycling becomes the smallest thing. There's so many other things that you share.
Yeah.
And so you have been to Girona actually at the same time when I've been to Girona.
That's right, yeah. So I was there for the sportive that they do in the June, I think it is. Late May, June? No, early June. I was there with my ex-club that I used to ride for. So London Dynamo, if anyone's listening from London Dynamo, hello. I used to be a member. I was a long distance member when I first moved to Wendover for a good year and a half and realised that I just wasn't getting wasn't getting any benefit out of it.
So what's your new club then?
I don't have a club at the moment.
So what's your new club then?
Possibly veloccino. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers to that. With London Dynamo, I think the connection to Girona was that the founder, or one of the two founders of, actually three founders initially, one of the founders of Eat Sleep Cycle, Lee, used to be a member of London Dynamo.
That's right, Lee Comerford.
And then they moved to Girona and just founded Eat Sleep Cycle, he and together with his wife Louise.
Yep.
And they are very, very established business. They're good friends of ours as well. Yep. Hello to you guys, if you listen to that. We should get them on the show as well. I will try.
I'm sure they pop over every now and again.
Yeah.
I say pop over because, the weather's a lot better in Girona and the riding's far better.
I think maybe we have to pop over. That was we had in common. And then, the riding in general, kids same age and stuff. And, we enjoy our, monthly Dad's Night Out. Yeah.
Thirsty Thursdays is we're calling it.
And a couple of gravel, rides to plan in the future, right?
For sure.
If you haven't tried that, like lunchtime gravel, if you work from home, it's absolutely fantastic. Just go out, find yourself a route, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, and then you can somehow adjust it around your work time.
Try not to eat the gravel. You come home and eat some lunch afterwards.
Exactly. If you're in Wendover, a good way is taking the basically hay lane, going into the entry at the bottom of the hill. We call it Canada, this bit, and go all the way up to the top of the hill where Wendover Cafe is.
Quite a steep climb.
Yeah, but then you've done something for the money, right?
Yeah,
because then at the top at the cafe you can have 3 chocolate brownies and a muffin. Yeah. That should be enough.
And it pulls you down the hill quite quickly afterwards too. So.
By the way, this is really good. Really nice.
Yep.
Also the Claremont bit. So we are going to plan to go to the Tour of Flanders. It's 15 of us here from Wendover going over on Friday night, taking the ferry, do the race on the Sportif on Saturday, and then watch the race on Sunday, going back in the evening on after the race, which I think will be super exciting. And hopefully you can join as well.
That'd be great.
We stay in Ghent, by the way.
Yeah, I love Ghent. It's one of my favourite cities.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've been many times.
I wasn't entirely sure if you just said it now because you thought you have to say it.
It's a great place. There are a few other towns actually that are a bit quieter and don't get the buzz of Tour de Flanders when it happens. In fact, one of them is the old starting point of Tour de Flanders. Yeah. And it's now, because it doesn't go, it might pass the town, but it doesn't go into the town. Yeah. It's now a very quiet place to stay if you're ever there and isn't too far from actually Oudenaarde.
Do you remember the name of the town?
Yeah, it's where they make Rodenbach beer. It's it's a town called Rosselaar.
Rosselaar. And do you have this in your portfolio as well?
I have Rodenbach, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Grand Cru. Only the Grand Cru. I can't seem to find Rodenbach here.
So... we mentioned all of this now, when I asked, do you have the beer? So what is actually the business model of Wendover Beers? How does it all work together? What is it?
So I originally was going to set up a microbrewery in my back garden. Crazy, it may sound.
Yes, you do.
I had all the plans ready. A builder was already contracted to do it. I got a quote. I had an architect drawing for a small building that would house a 1 barrel or half barrel plant. And then just before I was due to find a commercial let in order to sell the beer I was going to brew, COVID hit and I couldn't get any funding.
Oh, wonderful.
So the cost of the building was going to be, I think, originally 15,000. COVID hit and the builder wanted to up the price because he couldn't get hold of anything. So it went from being 15k to, he was like, it's going to be more like 25 now. Yeah. It's just there's no way. So I had to knock that plan on the head. And in all honesty, I think it was probably the best thing, because building a microbrewery in your back garden, there's a lot of people that might want to complain about that. Yeah. So my neighbours are probably quite happy it didn't happen.
Would you still do it if the funding would come from somewhere? I mean, we have a lot of listeners.
I think I would definitely consider making a brewery, but not from a back garden. There's plenty of reasons why. The more I looked into it afterwards, the planning permission alone, and the trouble it can cause with all sorts of capital gains tax and things like this, it's just a no-no. So, but I definitely am within the plan of the business is actually to try and grow into a nano brewery and brew our own branded beer. So
this accidental stuff that where you all of a sudden have a good idea and you think like, oh, it's fantastic, but then when you look at it a little bit later with a bit of distance, you realize, oh, maybe it was not the best idea. It also happened to me almost. Yeah, I almost rented out like a little shop floor here in Wendover.
Oh yeah,
where I want to just have like, I would call it like Wendover headquarter, and then have like a couple of tables in their desks where all my mates can just come in and just work.
Oh right,
work from
like
home,
like a WeWork sort of shop.
Well, yeah, kind of, and then basically have like a little bar at the front where you have like filter coffee, and then people can just come in and buy filter coffee for like far too expensive, with a big markup that helps us basically funding this place. And then I told to a couple of friends, and they were like, "Hey, mate, like Facebook, Facebook would go wild. Like everything went over. Everybody would complain over like, what is this dodgy place?" And then I told to my wife, and she was like, "Did you ever do a business plan?" I was like, I didn't think we need that. So it never happened.
This isn't working too well. Eh? Should we move this?
Let's move it down. But now in the retrospect, I'm like, okay, actually good that I didn't do it, because I was ready. I was like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah. No, it's if that whole failed business plan that I had originally has taught me anything, it's to get your business plan properly in order before a pandemic hits. But the latest plan is now that we have this premises that we built in our back garden. So I got a builder to do it for me. At half the cost of the original quote.
Oh, nice.
So it's a wooden clad building, very secure, with a PVC door and window.
Yeah.
And I have like some shelves that I've got an air conditioner in to keep the temperature down to about 12 degrees.
Oh, nice.
And then I have all the craft beer stored in fridges. So I've got two commercial fridges in there.
Yeah.
So as you can see, the beer arrives cold to your house. That's the other bonus.
So nice. This is really lovely. The service is just like so good. And so, but it's not like just limited to the craft beer, because you also do.
Yeah. So we have a range of UK craft beer, but we also have craft beer from Scandinavia. Yeah. We have some German beers, Belgian beers, such as the Guaramont.
Yeah.
And then we also stock ale and cider as well. So.
And how does it work? So if I want to order beer at yours, do I need to know exactly what I want when I order?
So we currently have like a featured section on the front page of the website with multiple mix bags, where we'll just put bags together. So if you're not sure what you're looking for, we'll have 5 IPAs in a bag or 5 dark beers in a bag, and we just change these bags around as often as we can with the latest stock. Just to make it a bit easier for the people that just can't decide. Yeah. I mean, if you don't really know what beer you're looking for, you can always send an email to the email on our site, and I can put together a curated bag or box that will, tick all the boxes of the beers that you say you like.
So website is wendoverbeers.co.uk.
wendoverbeers.co.uk or .com.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So also, I love it that Wendover's in the name, because when we started all of this with the podcast and stuff, for us, one of our aim was always to put Wendover on the map.
Okay.
And I really like it, actually, that... Wendover,
it's funny, because you go into the town and there's nothing that's called Wendover anything other than Wendover Antiques. And that just sounds like it's been there forever.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's growing slowly. We've been going about a year now. I've got a few loyal customers that keep coming back, but we're really just trying to push the word out there, because not having a commercial property has been the hardest part about pushing the brand. Yeah. People are like, where is this shop?
Exactly.
Where is it? It's in my back garden. They can't come to it. So
I can imagine. Yeah. So if I would have started my little project, it would have been Wendover headquarters as well.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Wendover HQ.
Yeah. Is there any idea that you potentially at some point maybe have like a brick and mortar store?
That's the plan. So hopefully something will come up on the high street when we can afford it. I'm at the point now where we've got enough finances behind us in terms of our annual accounts that we can actually go to banks and they'll consider us because we've got the history. But before the pandemic hit, I was a complete startup. Yeah. So no one wanted to know anything about, I mean, banks are hard enough to get money out of when, you're a startup anyway. But with the pandemic looming, it's not ever going to be a good time. So it's been a tough couple of years just funding it. So I had to do it all myself. So I paid for the building in my back garden. I paid for the initial stock. I paid for pretty much everything. So right now I just need the sales to come in so that I can start to pay myself back, because that's the main thing. Yeah, same with veloccino. I think I will never get the money back. Anyways, this is a different story. But and you're mainly talking to banks, or would there also be like private investors? I mean, we haven't fully thought about that at the moment. I've got a plan in place, so hopefully next year is when we start to put that into fruition. We're looking at doing events. That's going to be a big source of income for us over the next year. We have this cargo bike which looks great at events, which can double up as a bar, because you've got like the box that you can put a beer machine on, and so people could come up and get a pint from the bike, which is quite a good idea. So I'm hoping that kind of takes off over the summer next year, and then in the meantime I'll be searching for some sort of commercial venture where I can possibly brew beer. So that's what I'd really like to do. If I can't get down that route in terms of the funding, then I'll probably collab brew with some of the local breweries and hopefully get a beer brand at least out there with our name on that we can start to sell. So nice. And then there's so many things that I want to just chat about. So the bike that you have is also quite interesting. Another link it's from a brand called Urban Arrow. And when I went to the Netherlands around Easter holidays, we had one of these. Oh, it's absolutely fantastic. Yeah, it's a great bike. It's fully electric, as I say. I have an aluminium box on the front with a pneumatic lid. Yeah. So you can just turn up at someone's house and like that, get the beers out. They're nice and cold because I keep them in a cool box. Yeah. And people love it. Like, cold beer to your door. You don't have to go anywhere. This is so nice. But is it always limited to certain times, or is it like so my license, Deliveroo kind of thing? No, so my licensed hours are Wednesday to Friday evenings, and then all weekend. Because I basically have my daytime job, and it's only a part-time business at the moment. So that's so nice. But it would be better, I guess, like now in the winter time, because for you maybe not on the bike, but for our listeners, if you want to order beer, because you don't even have to leave your house. Exactly, yeah. So nice. I'm hoping that the cost of living squeeze might actually help my business, because people can't afford to go to the pub, so they might think, well, I want some beer, but I don't want to go out for it. You have a pub at home. Yeah. Do you always go, or did it ever happen to you that somebody ordered beer and then you ended up going in, drinking beer with this person? Not yet, no. What might happen when I order? Well, hopefully not, because I can't really drink and ride, right? And that's what these Quailmonts are for. Exactly. You can drink as much as you like and still get back on your bike afterwards. So good. And all this other beer. So the Stoke one, in particular, is this did it play a role for you to stock it, that they are like a cycling branded beer, or was it basically you came across this beer and thought, oh, that tastes nice? So no, I hadn't come across the beer at all. I've recently got into gravel riding, so I've never ridden like the Wild Wales or any of these other things. They're pretty much at every gravel event, I think. Yeah. They have a bar stock full of Stoke afterwards. Yeah. But it was purely the introduction from John earlier this year, that got me chatting to Gareth, one of the brothers that set up Stoke. And he sent me some samples in the post. It's one of the beautiful things about having a beer company is when you ask people, oh, what's your beer like? They send you free beer in the post. So I got a few samples sent to me. This one and his other, I think it's XPA, which was very good as well. We only stock this one at the moment because the only one that they had in stock when we ordered. Yeah. But we're hoping to increase our offering from Stoke as they increase their offering. Nice. This one is their Spring Summer IPA. It's a well-hopped 5.5% beer. Where are they based? So they, I think they're based in the southwest somewhere. We're in the southeast, right? So they're down. Are we? Whether they're based there or, I mean, I think their head office is maybe somewhere over this way, but they actually, use a brewery down in the southwest to produce their beer. So it's, Is this, and do you,
So how does it work for you? Do you have like these contracts with these beer breweries, or are you open also to other companies that you want to work with, or are you limited to like?
No, so I can pick and choose whoever I like to stock. Yeah. I have 3 main suppliers that I choose my craft beer from. One of which also imports Belgian and German beer, as well as Scandinavian beer.
Scandinavian beer.
Yeah.
Might be cheaper here than in Scandinavia.
It almost is actually, yeah. So this little number here is called Scandinavian West Coast IPA, and it comes from Gothenburg in West Sweden.
Nice.
It's a brewery called Stigberget, and my brother-in-law lives in Gothenburg.
Yeah.
So I know the beer. So when I found out I could get it from my supplier, I thought, well, I'll bring that across, and the people of Wendover can try the beer I try when I go to Gothenburg. So.
That's amazing. I studied for like a summer in Copenhagen.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my first night out. I went out like I didn't know anyone. Went to a bar. Would be £14 or something.
Wow.
I was like, are you joking?
Yeah. Well, we were there this summer. We went across in August for the summer holidays. Yeah. To spend some time with my brother-in-law, and I actually realised that it got cheaper somehow.
Yeah, must be.
So I don't know if that's our pound being stronger. Highly doubt so. It probably wouldn't be as cheap now after what Liz Truss has done. But sweeping away from the political side of things, I think.
But she's fantastic.
I think also it's got more expensive here. So now I don't notice the difference. Because when I first went over there, I was like, "Oh, how much a pint?"
Yeah.
And now it's like, "Oh, that's actually quite reasonable."
Yeah, I think back in the days, or when I was there, people from Norway went to Sweden to get pissed because Sweden was cheaper than Norway.
Well, that's right.
Swedish people went to Denmark to get pissed, and Danish people went to Germany.
That sounds about right. They probably do the whole drive over the border, fill up their car, and drive back, don't they? So
yeah. Actually, I did this with my with our wedding back then. That was before Brexit. Again, we don't want to go too much into politics, but before Brexit, when we got married, we drove down to Calais actually to fill the van up with wine and came back.
Yeah. That's what we did for our wedding.
That was
too,
really
actually.
good.
Yeah, it's good value.
Yeah, I think you can't do that anymore.
You can still do. I think they've left quite a generous amount of wine,
really?
So you can. And here's another thing. I was chatting to HMRC when I was getting my license to sell wholesale, and they were telling me that there's no rules on importing wine.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So with beer, you've got to go and like tell them how much you're bringing in and pay a load of duty. Yeah. With wine, you just bring in what you like, and you don't even have to tell them.
And you know why that is? Most likely because all our politicians are like,
they want all the wine.
Let everyone bleed, but oh no, we like to drink wine. No. There's an exception for that. Maybe they classify it as fruit juice or something.
I think it's something to do with the old French law of there's some sort of agreement between England and France that they will freely share the wine or something. Yeah, it goes back hundreds of years. But she was saying that lady at HMRC, you go straight to a winery, you can just bring in crates and crates and crates of wine, and the duty payable is not the same as like going and buying crates and crates of beer. You'd have to go and pay a load of duty on that beer. So we might look into that. Wendover wines.
Wendover or veloccino wines.
Yeah, well there you go.
Oh. No, actually, I should call it veloccino beers because then I also get free beer from companies that send me a sample.
Yeah.
Did you ever do a pub tour in London, like a guided pub tour?
No. Well, what you mean personally? Have I done one?
Yeah. Well, there's people that offer this, and then they always tell you stuff about the historic stuff of the city.
No, I've done ones on my own that I've kind of followed guides for and stuff. But
because I just came to my mind when you mentioned like the old laws with France and stuff. Because I've done a couple of pub tours now. Don't ask me why, but the guides will always happily tell you about certain historical events that took place that took part between the like Great Britain and France, and certain things that we still do that originate there. So, as an example, this is here my 5 pence of wisdom. Do you know where this? In most areas of the world, they use the middle fingers to swear, but in the UK, they use 2 fingers, the index finger and the middle finger to swear. Yeah, do you know where this is coming from? So back in the days, the Brits had an advantage because they were so good with the longbows.
Mm-hmm.
And every time the French army, or whatever it was, they captured a Brit, they would cut the 2 fingers off.
Right.
So all the others, before they shot the arrows to the French, they would show their 2 fingers to show them, look, I still have my 2 fingers.
Right.
And then shoot. This is where this is coming from.
Right. That's interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. This was like maybe a little bit too far off topic, but I thought it's quite an interesting story.
I guess it's pretty hard to fire a bow and arrow with these fingers, isn't it? So,
exactly.
Yeah,
also, one more thing. Did you if you go to the City of London, you will realize that most major old buildings have a pub right next to it.
Yeah.
And this is mainly because back in the days they were trying to get these buildings built on discounted rates. So their thought was, if the builders come in to build these buildings, they will go into the pub to eat and drink.
Mm-hmm.
So all the money that they pay them, they will leave in the pub. So, I just think it's remarkable, like how much of a link in the UK there is between history, pub culture and stuff.
Yeah. No, it's a funny old place. But it's a real shame pubs are shutting down. It's not my goal of this business, of course, to shut pubs down. Yeah. I can also supply to pubs. So if there's any pubs watching, you would like some beer to stock in your bar, then we can supply to you too.
That would be fantastic, especially, I guess, if you have like a little area where you can just like try beer, which you would usually not stock.
Yeah.
Because both of us, we love our pub. We love to go to the King and Queens as an example. And Wendover, if you want to meet us, once a month we go to the Dad's Night Out.
First Thursday in every month, unless someone like you changes the date.
And then it's the last. So we go twice.
Possibly. Yeah.
And then if you're a bike rider and you're in the area and you want to join us on our Friday night mountain bike to the pub, as an example, usually we meet up around 7 o'clock at the Clock Tower, go for like an hour and a half, and then we go to the King and Queens for a couple of pints afterwards. Just stop by and say hello. The owners of the pub are friends of us. They're really lovely people. They need all the support they can get. So,
yeah, here.
And shall we crack open another beer?
Yeah, take your pick. I mean, Quermont's there if you want to.
I take half of this. I think.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier it would be good to have maybe this stuff.
Remember what you've just tasted, because it's meant to be a similar kind of thing, right?
They're
really
very soft.
Different. They're very different colours.
Oh, there we go.
That's because.
Sorry.
It's because it's been shaken up a little bit on the root, but also it's warming up, right? And these beers don't like to be too
for
warm.
the listeners that don't see us, because we're on YouTube as well, I just opened the beer and it just basically came out of the top, basically proving that the German has no idea about beer. Do you have any? Yeah, do you have German beer as well?
I do. I did bring a non-alcoholic German beer because I actually think these are the way forward. So non-alcoholic wheat beer, which they are literally, they taste exactly the same as wheat beer.
Oh, so, Polana.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know Polana.
Yeah. So we we did actually have Rothaus.
Yeah.
Which I think they're from the Black Forest.
Yeah.
So we have their wheat beer, which is incredible. That one's good, not as good as the Rothaus.
So this is a bit stronger.
Yeah.
Like from the taste.
6.6%, and they've written it like when you do the Sportif, you'll notice that they have the maximum gradient in that little triangle box.
Yeah.
So they've done the beer to look just like the signs when you're going on the Sportif.
So it's a 6.6.
6.6, I think, is the maximum that the Quermont gets up to. So they brewed it at 6.6%. That sounds about right.
That's such a good idea.
Steep, so.
I think the brewery is right at this hill, right?
Not far from it.
Yeah.
So, the brewery name, Brabandere, I think it is. Brewery Brabandere. Trying to find it on here. Just,
it's really cool.
I can't actually see it. Is it at the top?
I love it when there's like this little bit of a cycling.
Brabandere.
Okay.
So just, which is, it's not far at all from the Quermont.
Yeah.
And they also make another beer, which is a very popular beer also, and I can't remember which one it is, but same brewery.
I forgot to remember, but Brabant. I think this is some kind. I think it's somehow linked to the Dutch royalty or something like that. I don't know if any Dutch listeners of US are on here. Just leave it in the comments below. Send me a message, send me an email, podcast@veloccino.com. Brabant, I think it is linked to the King's House somehow.
Any Flemish listeners, I apologise for my pronunciation.
I think it's really good.
Of Quermont and Brabandere.
Yeah, it's really
probably nothing like what it should be. Yeah. We once got told off for pronouncing the place where they have the start and finish of the race. Okay, is the finish of the race, the start and finish of the sportive is spelled Oudenarde. Now, to an English-speaking person, that just looks like Oudenarde or Oudenard, right? And we were going, "Where's Oudenard?" And the people we got told off because it's pronounced Oudenarde. You don't pronounce the U, so it's like a Oudenarde. Every time we said it, they just look at us stern and go, Oudenarde, like that.
And you're like, "I'm really sorry.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry."
But that's the story of my life, like when I speak English, right? How do I get to Bicester?
Bicester, yeah.
This is so good. So to the listeners, so we're trying now the Quermont 6.6 that we just spoke about. It's really nice from the taste. It's a little bit stronger, I would say.
Yeah, you get the I think you get the dryness with the alcoholic beers, right? Which you just don't get in non-alcoholic beers. So there's a dry finish. The dry finish is, of course, is the alcohol. This one being 6.6%, you can really taste that kind of alcoholic kick at the end. Really? But it is a lovely beer, and it'll make you merry if you drink a few. So
it make you get married.
Make you merry.
That's a joke. It depends. Where you drink it. Maybe you meet someone.
Yeah.
Where's the love coming from for beer?
So I've been a home brewer since 2010, I think.
Yeah.
So that's 12 years now.
Yeah.
I actually first got into brewing by when we lived at my mother-in-law's house in Ruislip, of all places.
Hang on. So you lived at your mother-in-law's house, and you're like, "Oh my goodness, it's so horrible here. I need to get drunk, but I can't afford to get beer. So let me just brew it in her basement."
No. So basically, what happened? She had an apple tree in her back garden, and every year it just gave loads of apples. And the first year I was there, it was having one of those years when it was getting lots and lots of apples. And they were just falling on the floor and rotting. And I was like, "This is sacrilege. We should be doing something with all these apples." So I decided I was going to start making cider. So I bought an apple press, which I still have, actually. It's a bit rusty. Rusty now.
Wendover ciders?
Well, this is the other side. So we do sell cider, but I also have this history of making cider. And I bought this press. I pressed her apples. I made probably about 5 gallons, which is about 40 pints. Of apple cider, and it came out really well. I did it properly. So the proper way to make cider is that you basically use no yeast, because the skins on the apples have a natural yeast. So when you crush the apples and then press them, the yeast off the skin gets mingled with the juice, and you end up having a naturally fermenting thing like wine. So no yeast required. You just put the apple juice in a container, a sterile container with an airlock, and it just bubbles away and ferments on its own. So I did it the proper way. I read a book and everything, and then it got to the following spring. So you leave it to ferment, and then you leave it to rest over the winter. And the following spring, it undergoes a secondary fermentation, and then you can bottle it in the late spring. And it honestly came out really well. So I decided to carry on doing that, and maybe for 3 or 4 years, from about 2009 through to 2012, I made cider every year from different apples that I could find. And now my brother-in-law has planted a cider apple orchard in his back garden. So he's got 10 or 12 cider apple trees, which are only babies right now, but in a few years' time, there's going to be so many cider apples that I'm hoping I can actually start to do it commercially and sell via the Wendover Beers brand. So
it's amazing.
So the cider got me into brewing, and then I realised cider was easier. I'll try beer. And I did the usual homebrew way of starting on kits. So you buy beer kits and you put them together, and you just basically get hooked on different ways, and then you sort of move up the chain, and eventually you get a bit too geeky on it and start to brew from grain and hops, which is what I do now. So
so nice, really good idea.
So being a home brewer, knowing quite a lot about different styles of beers and doing a lot of beer traveling. So I ridden in Belgium. I've met a lot of the Belgian beers along my travels. I've been to Germany a few times, tried a lot of the German beers. And then I spent a bit of time in Southeast Asia and Australia and the US. So I've tried beer from all over the world, and I kind of know all the different styles.
So good.
And when I moved to Wendover, there wasn't anywhere that you could go to get all these different styles. So I set up the company based on the fact that I wanted somewhere to buy beer. Yeah. And I'm sure there was other people that would want it too.
So good. So there's a couple of local breweries and stuff, and also like a couple of craft breweries. So what do you do different?
So obviously we're not brewing our own beer at this moment, but the local breweries to Wendover are Tring, Chiltern Brewery, two very traditional breweries. They do deliver, but you'd need to order a kind of minimum order to get it to your house. With our service, we have so many beers from so many breweries. Yeah. You're not going to find half these beers in the Chiltern Brewery or the Tring Brewery because they're very traditional breweries. But we also stock Tring. So rather than drive to the Tring Brewery, you can just have the Tring beers come to your house. I currently stock, I think, 6 different Tring beers. So if you like all of their core range, I've got that. And I also stock one of their craft beers at the moment, Raven King. The difference is that breweries will deliver for a minimum order value of maybe 12 bottles or something. Yeah. I have a minimum order value of £5. So if you're literally going to order 2 or 3 beers, I'll come to your house.
How far is your radius?
So we offer free delivery currently to postcodes beginning HP22, 5 and 6, which covers most of Wendover and surrounding villages and all the way up to Tring, I believe. Oh. So we will go that far.
That's really nice.
Obviously, we might have to reassess that if we get very, very busy, because I'd have to prioritize my Wendover customers. Yeah. And maybe once we get very, very busy, I can start to say we'll do, Tring on a Saturday or something like that. Yeah. But at the moment, we'll do, if you order before 6 p.m. Wednesday to Friday, you get the beer the same evening. Oh. If you order before 4 p.m. Saturday, the same. And then before 2 p.m. on Sundays, you get it that day.
So cool.
So same day delivery, free delivery, as long as you order over £5. Yeah. And if you live outside of those postcodes, we can ship beer via a box and courier. We use DHL. Yeah. And the postcode that you depict in your account will depict whether we need to charge postage or not. So,
that's nice. So basically, shop global, operate local.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's
so we do try and source local beers as much as we can. Obviously, there are a couple of breweries locally. Yeah. Chiltern, I've not actually been to yet to get any of their beer. Yeah. It will be on my list along with a couple of other beer breweries that are local to us. But at the same time, I don't want to just stock local beer because you can actually go and buy it from them. Yeah. I'd rather fill my space with weird and wonderful beer from all over the world and all over the UK. So. But currently I stock somewhere in the region of 60 or 70 beers. So it's quite a choice if you go on our website and have a look.
What's the craziest beer or weirdest beer or most?
Belgian, I think it has to be the Belgian stuff. So Belgian's Belgian beer to me is the best beer in the world. I don't think you really can top it. I mean,
German.
Well, if you like lager, German beer is great. If you like dark beer, German beer is great. It's not for everyone. Whereas Belgian beer, I think there's definitely a Belgian beer that will suit everyone. Yeah. Because they go from, very dark stout all the way through to hoppy IPAs with tangents of very different things in between. So, for example, my wife doesn't like beer, but she loves Belgian Kriek, which is like a cherry sour beer. Ooh. I stock that. If you like that sort of thing, most wives will like that. For any men out there that want to get their wife into drinking beer, and I also stock some of their Flandrian beers, which are more of the lambic style, which is basically an off-tasting beer, so quite sour. So I actually stock one of the sour beers called Hues. I got done for that pronunciation as well. Hues, not Gues, if you're English, right?
Hues.
It's Hues. I had a barman shout it in my face when I said, "Oh, I'll have a Gues boon." He said, "It's Hues," like that. So, but yeah, I try and stock as many weird and wonderful beers as I can from Belgium that I remember. And yeah, I just think, where else are you going to go and find this?
Yeah.
A specialist beer shop maybe, but it won't be in Wendover, and
So nice. I just really love the idea. Been to can't even remember what it was. It might have been in Bruges, Brugge, in the right pronunciation, and I've been to a beer house there, and I think they claim to have like all Belgian beers.
Wow, I mean
it was massive.
You get ones that say, we've got over 250 beers on the menu.
Yeah,
you're like, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're not all great. They're not all great. There's a lot of bad Belgian beers.
Yeah.
I mean, I can think of a couple off the top of my head that I wouldn't touch, but there are very, very different beers there. Like you've got every flavour of sour lambic beer.
Yeah,
Timmermans, I think. Lindemans. Sorry, Lindemans literally do every flavour. Like peach, strawberry, you name it. They've mixed a sour beer with that flavour. But there really is a beer for everyone, I think. It's just finding it.
Crazy. And about your cycling, so what's
so my history of cycling, so I grew up with BMXs when I was a kid, and I swiftly moved to mountain bikes when BMXs weren't cool anymore, which was probably the 90s sometime. And then I did a lot of mountain biking, so I have a history of that in the childhood. When I got to sort of school age, I kind of stopped for a while, and then when I met my wife and moved to London, I said, I want to get back into cycling. And she said, well, that's great. You can buy a bike, whatever. And then they had that whole cycle to work scheme. Remember that? They kind of came out in the late 2000s. So 2009, I think it was. I went on the bike to work scheme and got a mountain bike again, because I knew I liked mountain bikes, right? And I started commuting from Ruislip to central London down the canal on this mountain bike. Nice. So I get to work covered in mud.
It's almost like gravel cycling.
Well, yeah, but in the winter I'd be doing it in these, ridiculous over trousers and getting to work covered in mud. People are like, where the hell have you come in from? Because, people in London, they commute 2 miles on a bike. I was coming from Ruislip, which was probably, 11, 12 miles each way. And people thought it was mad then. And then I carried it on. So the commuting, I just got addicted to it. And we moved further and further out, right? Until we're here now in Wendover. But we lived in Northwood for many years. And Northwood's like 32 kilometres, I think, from central London. I did that each way for 3 or 4 days a week for many years.
You must have been super fit, actually.
Yeah. So that was the whole point. So when I lived in Twickenham, I joined London Dynamo. And I used to commute from Twickenham to London pretty much every day.
Wow.
And then I moved back over this way, like to sort of Rickmansworth originally. And I carried on the commuting from there because I knew nothing more than getting on my bike, going to work. So I'd always find a route, right? But I had people like, wow, you commute like, 100 and something miles a week. And then I'd still go out with the club at the weekends. So
that's crazy.
There was a time when I'd be doing 300-400 miles in a week. And that was just normal to me.
But I absolutely love the idea of, I feel in the UK, most people think of cycling as sport, and I think this is also where sometimes the hate is fueled by, that people think that, you just do your sport on the road and like from car drivers and stuff, where I feel people should also acknowledge that it's just a mode of transport for many. So, and I think I said it in one of our previous episodes, like back then at the beginning, that in Germany I had like 2 bikes, like one that I was just using to ride, and then faster one, and I needed to go to university a bit quicker. Or I had to go a bit further. And for me, this was just normal, and I didn't even think of competing or whatsoever in terms of cycling. About here, it's always people neglect the thought of this. It's a fantastic way to.
It is. It's just a shame that the British roads aren't kind of cut out for commuting that well. I mean, I have many near misses. I've had a few accidents in my time commuting to London for such distances. You're bound to eventually come a cropper. I had 2 cars like run me down. One ended with a hospital trip, the other wasn't so bad. So of course, other than my commuting, which got me back into cycling in the 2009 sort of time, I joined London Dynamo around 2011 when I moved to Twickenham, and I had a good friend, Paco, if he's listening. Hi, Paco.
Hi, Paco.
Who introduced me to London Dynamo, and I rode with those guys for 3 or 4 years constantly, like Richmond Park, all the Surrey Hills, all of that sort of stuff. And they're a very race central club. So they pretty much, they don't force you into racing, but it feels like you really need to get into it to kind of be part of that club. So
everybody's doing it. So.
Everybody tries it at least. So I did try racing. I never actually left fourth cat, but I got very close. So my first season, I actually got 8 points, and you only need 10 to move up to third cat. And the last race I did, I actually ended up coming off, and that kind of, it didn't put me off, but I just got so frustrated, like, because a lot of the times you'll be putting in all the effort for the race, and then you'll lose in the bunch right at the end. So you'll be almost at the front peg most of the race, and then people will just fly past you at the end, and you'll come 16th or something.
I think it's so difficult. Really, like fourth cat, I think, is one of the most difficult classes to get out. Well,
because there's a lot of crashes, right? Yeah. There's a lot of inexperienced riders. There's a lot of people slowing you down. Yeah. And it's very difficult, I must say.
Yeah, and also there's like a lot of people that start racing, but they're already really good. So you never really know what you're good. So I think the how do you call it, like the variety of riders in Cat 4, I think is quite high.
Yeah, and you've of course got the young ones coming through who might be future pros that are just starting out on the day you choose to go, and maybe there's 2 or 3 young ones that just pull the whole field around.
Those are the annoying ones.
And then they lap you, and you're like, you and your youth.
I always tell them then afterwards, like, you are half my age. You better.
But I'm over 40 now, which puts me in the Veterans League.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe I'll get back into racing when I become a veteran, because I just like the sound of it. But they're all like hardcore nuts that have raced their whole lives, so I think that's even worse than fourth cat, to be honest.
Yeah, I competed. Well, I participated the other day at the National Gravel Champs, which was absolutely shit.
Was it?
Like, well, the event was nice, but for me it was not so good. First of all, similar situation. You had like you're seated in your age groups, and then there was a start. Everybody was gone. I was like, holy shit. They are really fast. And then, went all the way. And then, after 6Ks or so, there was another group coming from the rear overtaking me.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give a bit of space, and I split my front tire. So my race was over.
Okay.
So it was just really bad. And I spoke to a couple of friends afterwards, and was like, do I really want to race? I mean, I'm in this age now where I compete with people that either have already children that are out of the house, so they have now found the time to train again, or they have much more money to buy much more better equipment, or they want to dedicate more time, or maybe they're already retired, and they are willing to sacrifice so much more time than I will ever be to.
Well, this is it, and this is what you find with cycling. So when you go out and you ride in these bigger clubs or race with people, from these bigger clubs, and you really do find out that some people actually spend a lot more time cycling than you do, right?
Yeah.
And someone like me who used to commute all the time, maybe they didn't spend as much time on the bike, right? Yeah. But the time they spent on the bike, they spent well.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
People used to tell me commuting is wasted miles for training because you're really not putting in any efforts, or there's very little interval training going on when you're cycling to work.
Yeah,
so it's sort of wasted miles. It's great for stamina, and it's great for long distance riding, but in terms of racing, it's not actually that beneficial. So
that's true. I almost got points once. I was almost winning a race in Hillingdon, but then my derailleur broke.
No
good.
It's nothing worse than a mechanical, is there, in a race? But I mean, well, there's a crash, and that's far worse. But I do have friends that I sort of follow on Strava that do race, and it's always good. It always makes me kind of envious when I see them finish a race. But
I would love to be like as strong. Yes, like the other day we spoke to Alex Miller from Namibia, who won the bronze medal at the Commonwealth Games, and I was like, oh my goodness, I would love to be like an amazing rider like he is. After we stopped recording, I realized like I will never be that person. Maybe I will be a fantastic, what do we call people above 60? Sub-veteran or something?
An OAP?
Old
OAC. Old age cyclist.
I thought it's an old age C word.
Well, that as well. Yeah.
Well, anyways, cool. Jim, it was an absolute pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thank you.
Really enjoyed that. We had a couple of glitches with our recording at the beginning. With the camera, the audio quality is good, but the camera might have started a bit later. So please apologies for that. If people want to follow you, where can they do that best?
So we're on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and it's just at Wendover Beers on all of those.
Are you on TikTok?
No, don't do TikTok. What's that? Something the kids play with, isn't it?
Yeah,
I see them dancing on bridges on the motorway and stuff. I don't understand that.
With beer.
with beer. With Wendover Beers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're just at Wendover Beers. The website is wendoverbeers.com or wendoverbeers.co.uk. Yeah. And you will have a delivery fee if you're not within the local area, because the delivery is depicted by postcode. Yeah. But yeah, have a look and see. And again, if there's anything that you're not sure of, just feel free to send us an email and inquire, and we can help out.
That's amazing. If you don't find Jim at any of these, reach out directly to us. podcast@veloccino.com. You most likely know our Instagram handles as veloccino. And and leave a review for us, please. It really helps us. Click the like button if you're on YouTube. Click, I think, you can also do it on Apple iTunes and Spotify. It will definitely help us. It feeds the recommender, so other people will also find us. And the more people listen to us, the more fun it is. So thank you very much. Thanks, Jim.
And I think we've had a good adventure there, so we can probably now drink the Stoke.
All of it.
This is après adventure.
So we are finishing basically all of this now, and there's a couple of more over there. So thank you very much for listening, for viewing, for watching, and thank you very much for telling all your friends about us. And don't forget, go out, ride your bike, because the best stories have not yet been written. Boom.
Bye-bye.
Wait. First of all, thank you so much for tuning into our previous episode. It really means a big deal to us, and I hope that you have enjoyed what you've seen. This leads me to number 2. If you would like to support the channel, please hit the subscribe button, click like, or comment down below. Why? Because this will feed the algorithm, so other viewers will find us easier in the future. And for you, if you don't have enough of us already, why don't you click on this side or on this side to watch some more of our other episodes. Thank you so much from everybody at Veloccino, and see you next time. Go out, ride your bike.